Good evening and welcome to your Rangers Journal episode for Friday night. We're going to take a look at the news that's happened today, and we're also going to take a look ahead to the Kilmarnock game at the weekend. With me tonight, decent panel of folk actually. So Tom, coming to you first. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, Dave. Happy to be here. And yes, the international break is finally over. So more than happy this evening, mate. More than happy.
Aye, I know that feeling. And Doug, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Happy it's the weekend. And happy to have the, as we like to say, the proper football back. So
I'm sensing a theme here. And last but certainly not least, Scott, how's you this evening, mate?
I'll make that the hat trick on that one. I'll take the hat trick ball for that. It has been probably it's felt a longer than normal international break for some reason. I'm not really sure, but started a busy spell, so there's going to be lots to talk about over the next few weeks, and certainly starting tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And should say before we crack on, carefully added to the bottom of your screen, courtesy of our graphics wizard, Doug. But as it says, we are sponsored by Premier VPN. Fast, safe, and private VPN available for you on their website or on Twitter. So let's start with the news, guys. Obviously, we had the press conference today. I think the first bit of good news out of that was all the players that were away come back. I think the only slight possible concern is Ross McCausland, who apparently picked up a bit of a knock, Tomo. How important do you think that is for us heading into the next sort of batch of fixtures?
Yeah, it's massively important. We've said it before on pods the last couple of years. We've been killed by injuries. Just trying to get people out, get people fit out onto the pitch. So to come back from an international break and having no real new injury concerns, I think McCausland might have had a little bit of a knock just prior to the international break. But we've got 7 games in the next 21 days coming up, so the squad's going to have to be used. So, like you say, it's good news. We've got a near enough clean bill of health.
That's it, mate. Absolutely. And one of the other things that came out from the presser, Doug, Ruud van Yilmaz due back in training next week, so obviously won't be in contention for this one. I guess a couple of things about Yilmaz. So first, does he walk back in the team, or is he potentially lost the jersey in your eyes?
Yeah, I don't think he walks back into the team at all. He'll have to displace a player in form, and Jetty has been playing well. I do think if Yilmaz can maintain his fitness, I do still think there is a potential battle to be won there. But I don't think he necessarily will just walk in if he's still playing well. I'm sure I've probably said it ad nauseum at this point. Yilmaz is a good player, and I'd be happy for him to be our left back, but there's just that growing injury concern, and if that continues this year, then I think we will ultimately see him leaving. But yeah, if he's fit, he's there to win the jersey, and again, it's good to have positions that have players of similar capabilities fighting per position, because it will get you that little extra out of whoever's on the park.
Absolutely, mate. And just following up on the Yilmaz bit thing, so I think Paul's raised quite a good point here, Scott. Any player coming back from injury will need to build up the game time slowly, 15 minutes here or there. I think with Yilmaz in the past, I guess our hand was forced to an extent, but he always seemed to get quite rushed back, pitched in quite quickly. Do you think the emergency left in the sort of form that he has been displaying gives us an opportunity to maybe ease Yilmaz back in and try and boost that fitness up?
I think, as Tomo said, we're going into a busy spell of fixtures between now and the next international break, and then international break and Christmas. So the more players you've got available, the more opportunity you have to not over-rotate, but take players out that are there's so much emphasis on sports science and hitting the red zone and all that sort of stuff. So I think that there may be opportunities to manage these players back into contention and into fitness sort of thing. I think Yilmaz, as Doug says, being available for a prolonged period of time is the challenge that the fitness coaches and rehab and that I've got. So hopefully the fact that's been probably a couple of months he's been out since he got injured against Kiev. So if he starts maybe 1-2 matches across this next spell, I think he'll have done well. But I think the most important thing is that he's back in the match day squad across the period and available for Philippe Clement.
That's it. And I guess even the prospect of him being there, like Doug said, that kind of breeds that competition with Yefte as well, doesn't it? So hopefully they can spur each other on. Looking at another player then that was picked up in the presser, Danilo is back. He is training. I think the manager was pretty clear that this one absolutely is going to be managed. Tomo, do you think we're going to see much of anything from Danilo this side of the winter break? Well, not winter break, but you know what I mean, the kind of Christmas, New Year spell.
I certainly hope so. If he's fit and he's ready to go, again, it's another player. We've not seen really much of Danilo apart from his first couple of months here at the club, where there was signs that he was he would be a good asset, and unfortunately he's just had injury after injury. So hopefully whatever the issue was has now been solved, and he gets sort of eased back into the squad and into the team, because we can go into debates about Dessers, but the fact is he's our only real fit striker. And you've got Egerman, who's coming in again and flashes, has shown some good stuff, but we need people challenging. So I'm really hopeful that whatever it is with Danilo, it has been fixed, and he is going to get starting to get a bit of a run of games, because, like I say, we need as many players as we can fit, and more importantly, people challenging for positions. We can't have kind of players getting comfortable and slacking off, knowing that there's no competition for them. So I think we will. If he's fit and ready to go, I think we'll see him. But like I say, it all depends on Clement. We know he's not much of a fan of just chucking people in, so it'll depend what his mindset is.
Yeah, just remember, mate, he always walked with a limp, right?
He did. One leg shorter than the other.
Aye. Doug, just a quick one, totally off topic here, or not, but breaking the schedule a bit, since Paul's a regular viewer, we'll give him a question. So he's talking about, basically, obviously you want players to build a partnership, playing with each other week in, week out, but obviously you need that rotation as well. Do you think there's an argument that Balogun maybe should be getting some more minutes than he has been?
I agree that I think it's good for players to get minutes where they can, like particularly obviously your subs and that. We talk a lot about young players getting minutes to kind of ease them in, and I think you want to make sure your squad players get minutes as well to keep them in touch with things, and to give them to keep them sort of not match fit as per se. You'll never do that unless you're playing matches, but as close as possible. That being said, centre back of all positions, I think is something you just shouldn't mess with unless you have to. There's no other area of the pitch, I think, that where the communication between two players is more important than between your two centre backs, because that can be the difference between a goal and not, if your centre backs have got that right communication and that right balance, and you only get that by playing together and playing together regularly. So ideally, I probably would go against disturbing that as much as possible. I think that it's similar with probably if whoever your two central midfielders are, that's also communication is important for them as well. But if they lose a ball or something goes awry, the defence is behind them. If your defenders lose the ball, all there is the goalkeeper. So, as I say, that area in particular, I tend to prefer to keep, once you've got two and they're working, play them so that they can get as good as they absolutely possibly can together. Because, as I say, that could be the difference, particularly in big games. it can be as important as a goal. So I wouldn't be putting him in for no reason. But again, if you're at a weekend, you're up 4-0 at 60 minutes, absolutely get Balogun in there, give him the minutes, and give him some time to, as I say, keep the legs from stiffening up.
Yeah, that makes sense, to be fair. And I think it is a valid point, as you say, that they are the last line of defence, so to speak. So, if they're not on the same page, you've got issues. Scott, and just the last one we're going to cover from the presser injury-wise, Oscar Cortez. So, update 3-4 weeks ago was he's out for several weeks. Got exactly the same update today. At what point do we start to get worried about that? I mean, several weeks isn't very defined, is it?
It's there's a few questions, and I think it appears that the manager has spoken a bit more about Oscar Cortez, and I think more information is going to come out over the next couple of days on that one. I think probably embargoed information for those that were at the press conference, but he's just it's been stop start, very much like Danilo since he came in, and I don't think he's been lucky with his injuries. It's never been a short term injury. That you're out for 2 or 3 weeks. Several weeks can be anything for 6 to 12 sort of situation. So I think if we see, to be honest, I think if we see Cortez back before the end of the year, I think we'll have done well, because I think it's going to. That was this, it's what's that? So we can have a player out for 7 weeks, won't it? Yeah, it's you just have to. I think sometimes if you say somebody's out for 6 weeks, I don't think Philip Clement and the medical staff are pinning timescales on things. They're making it a bit open to interpretation sort of situation. So Cortez is just, we could go into a wider conversation about the fact we've signed him on an obligation to buy, etc. But that's right. I think potentially the manager has and Niels Koppen has spoke about that in recent days. He said that he came with a clean record on the basis of what Rangers. So he's obviously it's nobody. He's not the first Rangers player to walk in and suddenly get injured. It's been a historical thing over the last 25, 30 years that players that haven't been injured then sign for Rangers and they have injury blighted careers. But it appears he's going to be signing a 5-year contract. We just hope that this early it's a few bumps in the road for him, and over the period he becomes an important player for us. But I'm not expecting too much for the remainder of 24 out of Oscar Cortez.
Yeah, I think so, because even again, a bit like we've said with the other guys, even once he is back, there's 0 point chucking him straight in, or we're just going to be back here having the same discussion a few weeks later. He needs kind of managed into it, I would agree. Just a couple of youth bits, and I will be very brief. So Rory Wilson was ended up pushing to, well, not pushing, but Aston Villa took him. We did manage to get a deal for that, and there was a sign-on in it. Don't think we're talking much any money, but at the same time, it's encouraging that the club is thinking about these kind of things for me. And the other one is Alexander Smith, plays at under 17 level, I think. Apparently has made a choice to play for Scotland as opposed to the USA. Scott, I'm sorry, right? I know you don't want to have this conversation, but it's time. So we're going to have this conversation. Luckily, you've just answered, so I'll come to Tomo first. Obviously, news broke. Ryan Kent has had his contract ripped up by Fenerbahce, and he is now a free agent. I think there seems to be a bit of dubiety whether he would actually be eligible to register for anyone at the minute, or if it wouldn't be possible until January. I think it's fair to say the fan base is pretty split down the middle on this one. I've seen folk, basically willing to go and pick him up. And I've seen folk willing to volunteer as security guards to keep him out of Auchenhowie. So where do you stand on that one? Do you think there's merit in that? Would you avoid at all costs?
I personally would have said no, but then I've seen some of the comments that Philip Clement made in his press conference. He wasn't exactly, saying no, this isn't happening. He was saying, I don't get involved in rumours. So who knows? I mean, we all look back at Ryan Kent with the fond memories of the goals against Celtic, the run to the Europa League final, and if we were getting that Ryan Kent, he said, yeah, get him in, get him in. But the way it ended with him, he was a shadow of the player that he was. And since he's got to Fenerbahce, he's barely played. He's not done anything. So it's what sort of shape is he in, both physically and mentally? Would he be up for the challenge? Probably not. So. And it's not someone we need. I say, I'll always have the fond memories of Kent. And it's the same with Morelos. Morelos came available tomorrow. The people, well, again, you've got to remember how it ended with them. And they ultimately didn't want to be here. They wanted to leave. They could have stayed, but they wanted to leave. So for me, leave it in the past. We've got to move on. And good luck. Good luck to him wherever he ends up. I hope he does go on and play like we all know he can play. But from a Rangers point of view, I'd be no, thank you.
Yeah, and Doug, same question to yourself, aye or nay?
95% no. I mean, first and foremost, if we remove his history from us, it's all the hallmarks of the type of championship player lost his way who was once a starlet but is struggling a bit, which is exactly the players that we've been saying we don't want to buy. If you take away the name and just look at the history, he did really well here, he won a title, he got to a European thing, but he's had a really bad time of it, maybe we can get the gold back. It's exactly that. That's exactly what it is, and that's not what we're wanting. Obviously, though, you can't just erase the history, so there is that there. And, I'm sure even the people that don't want him, if it were to happen, would love if the fairy tale story was to come true and he was to come back and to shine again. But I'm just not sure I see it. I looked into the thing about signing. I can't find anything that would allow him to sign before January. The rule seems pretty much flat that once if a player is released after the transfer window in that association, then he can't play for another. His registration stuck until the following window. So I can't find any. There are suggestions there might be loopholes. For example, if they haven't played, I haven't been able to find anything to that effect. So that again, that means he's not going to be playing any football. So he comes in. How long does it take him to get fit? How long does it take him to settle in? I just think there's too many things against it to make it viable. As I say, never mind the fact that he's, if he'd been playing great and he'd left because of the, not getting paid kind of scenario and stuff that can happen over there, then that would be one thing. But he's been really, really poor since he's left as well. And that was the worry at the end of this time with us, that he'd kind of seemed to have lost. It was almost as if he'd lost his enthusiasm. So for all those reasons, I'm a no. The only reason I'm a 5% is just because wingers is an area we could use an extra player. And like I say, if you could come in for a good price, like wage wise, and we only signed him for say that 6 months, January to May, and said to him, right, we'll take you on. We're not going to pay you loads, but we'll take you on. If you can show us you can be that Kent again, then maybe something happens. So that and that would be my only want. It would be a 6 months thing for him to have 6 months to come in and show us that he can be the Kent that he was. Otherwise, that would be that. But even at that, I still think the wages thing would be an issue because he'd probably want to be, reasonably well paid, similar to what he was before. I don't think we want to be playing money again for that kind of player in that position. So yeah, for me it's a no, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that makes sense. Go on then, Scott. We haven't got all night for, mate, so just your top 5 reasons maybe instead of the whole list.
I just think it's a step back. You know, I think we over the last few months, it's been about clearing the decks and getting rid of the serial losers, as a lot of people have categorised the players that were successful for 55 and took us to Seville. Ryan Kent, Alfredo Morelos, Connor Golson, all these guys. So the bulk of them they've all gone, bar Tav. So I just find it staggers me that I think as a support, I don't think there's any support anywhere that pines after old players as much as Rangers fans do. It's, you know, it's just, listen, I wish him well. His career's hit the rocks. I think Doug's spot on. He ticks that box of a championship player that has had a difficult couple of years, and if Michael Beale was the manager, he'd probably be at Auchenhowie already and signed. But I just think it's a step back. We've got an approach under Niels Coppin. He's made it very clear what the strategy is. Signing Ryan Kent would go against that, in my opinion, and I just think let him go elsewhere, rebuild his career away for Rangers. I do understand we're light in wide areas, but for me, Doug again spot on. Hunger. Kent, to me, I remember in the period before in the sort of period where he'd sort of down tools in that last season, I remember saying I thought he looked bored. His body language just looked like somebody that, listen, I get bored watching Scottish football, and I get bored at times because you're playing the same teams 6-7 times a season. You're playing on plastic pitches, all that sort of stuff. It's no coincidence that Kent's best football was in the European arena. Mm-hmm. You know, but the bread and butter is that forum's a huge part of where we need to get back to. It's all very well having success in Europe. Rangers need to get back to being a success domestically, winning trophies domestically. And I don't think Ryan Kent, bar the 55 season and a few isolated incidents scoring against Celtic and stuff, you know, so it's 100% no for me, but I wish him well.
Yeah, and I think I'm very similar to what kind of you guys have said. For me, I think the 2 key things, I could sit and rattle off loads more, but I think the 2 key things are we've just implemented a wage structure, which in all honesty, you know, I think it was on 40-something K over there a week, 25 here before he went. So he's going to be looking for us to pretty well burst that wage structure for him. And again, he just doesn't fit. You know, we had that interview just last week when Niels Coppin came out, told us what their policy for signing folk was. Kent doesn't fit that. So for me, they would be the 2 key things. And I would also be a no. So one controversial subject to another then, lads. Pyro. So we had chairman's statement on, I think it was Wednesday, came out and spoke about it. Basically, UEFA fined us for 2 games. To be honest, wasn't great, but kind of expected. So, you know, I didn't think too much of it when the fines themselves were announced. I think the real shock potentially was actually the team across the city. Because I think that maybe gives us a bit of an insight as to where this will end up for us if we don't bag it. So obviously they were given a suspended away fans ban for 2 years. So if they have any further reoccurrences, that'll be away fans banned for their next game. And as I say, all right, I don't particularly like talking about them, but I think it's pretty clear that if that's the punishment they've been given, that's probably what we're going to be looking at before long. So, I mean, where do you stand on it all, Tomo? I mean, obviously the arguments for it gives the kind of atmosphere, it gives that experience, and, you know, especially on a night game, it can be pretty incredible to look at. But where do you stand on it all?
Well, firstly, as I say, I'm going to be honest here. We're getting fined, so regardless of what we think or what the Union Bears think, it needs to stop, because the only people getting hurt are the club. And in the last game against Leon, you had them setting off fireworks from inside the stadium. Now that's just moronic, letting off fireworks with people around you. So the issue is that the Union Bears just seem to be a law unto themselves. They, regardless of the club getting fined for whatever, they just continue it and continue it. So regardless of whether we think it adds to the atmosphere, it needs to stop. We've also got the thing where it interrupts the games. There's been a few times where we've been playing some decent football, and the pyros go off, smoke comes over the pitch, and the game gets stopped for a few minutes. It takes the wind out of our sail. So it's things like that, and that you sit and watching, and it frustrates you. And I think, like I say, if it continues and we're continuing to get fines, and then what looks like will probably be a ban of some sort, then the people who are causing it need to be held to account. And will the club do that? That's my biggest sort of concern. Have they let them get away with so much that I say, they're just a law unto themselves? But that could be a conversation for another day. They do bring a good bit of atmosphere to Ibrox. I'm not the Union Bears, I'm not denying that. But at the same time, doing things that are going to hurt our club, it's just got to stop, in my opinion, regardless of how it adds to the atmosphere.
Yeah, and I think, it's a really interesting point Tomo raises there, I think, Doug. Realistically, all right, some folk might moan about it. I've heard complaints, people with asthma, things like that. But ultimately, this is hitting the club in the pocket. What do you think? I mean, there was a comment before from Paul saying, should the police and stewards do more? Would you agree with that, or do you think it's on the club, given that, these guys will have season books? They'll probably have a pretty good idea who the vast majority of them are. Where do you think the control of that sits?
Ultimately, it sits with the person who's letting off the firework.
Fair point.
They should be adult enough to not. I love a good firework display. I've seen some amazing ones in my time. I've been really lucky to see some great ones, but I don't let them off in my house because I don't want to burn the place down. And metaphorically speaking, that's what will happen. Because ultimately, it's not just fines. Like, these things escalate over time. It starts with a fine, and then, like you point out, that will escalate to be fans being banned, which will escalate to being no fans, which will escalate to being you're not playing in our tournament anymore eventually. I mean, this subject's really, I don't get really angry a lot, but this subject is really kind of grinding my gears. I mean, not only is there the health and safety aspect, it takes one person to mess it up for that firework to go off right amongst a group of people, which could include small children. And that can kill someone straight off the bat. So, I mean, there's that aspect of it, which is just stupid. Everything Tomo said about it interrupting the game is 100% true. I did think it affected us a little bit when that game paused. You mentioned asthma. I'm asthmatic, and if that stuff hits me, I'll spend the rest of that half coughing, because that's how the primary way that my asthma takes effect. Usually in the winter when it's colder, I'll start to cough a little bit because of the air quality. And that could be me for the rest of I'd say definitely for the half, but it could be for the rest of the game, rest of the night. So there's just nothing about it other than, you can go, it's nice and adds to the atmosphere. There's 100 million other ways to add to the atmosphere that are not against health and safety, that do not put fans at risk, that don't put the club at risk, that won't cost us money. To top it all off, I just have to say, like, I've been seeing people on social media egging it on as a way to get the board out because it will cost them money. Yeah, if you are willing to put fans' health and safety and the club's well-being at risk for your political agenda, then you are no fan of Rangers. I'm sorry, but that just makes me absolutely furious. And I'm going to stop talking before I say something that I'll regret or that YouTube bans. But yeah, it's just stupid, and it needs to stop, and it needs to stop straight away.
And Scott, is there anything you'd want to add to that at all, or the guys? I think the guys have captured it pretty well between them. To be fair,
the both guys have covered it. Listen, I'm a bit of a hypocrite. I think it looks brilliant, but I think that last game, letting fireworks off inside the stadium, many years ago, there was a fan killed at Cardiff when it was a firework went for the equivalent of the Govan stand across to the main stand. It only takes something to go like that. Is it going to take something like that to go wrong for it to actually get into people's heads at a time when budgets are being cut right, left, and centre within the club? That's prize money. So the fines will just come out of the money that we get from UEFA. We're not going to send a cheque for 50 grand. If we're due X amount, they just take that money off, and it's just I expect this to persist, to be honest with you. I just the sort of mentality of the people concerned, but it's just unnecessary. Visually, it looks great. Did we need pyro on the run to Seville on those Thursday nights? No.
Yeah.
So I think that proves the point. You don't need pyro to create an atmosphere. Looks great visually, but it's a myth that it creates an atmosphere.
Yeah. I think I'm very aligned with you, Scott. There are times where it does look class. I'm not going to deny that, but it's the kind of risks that come with it, isn't it? Okay. So looking at the international break, I'm not going to dwell on it long. We had 10 away to 5 seniors, 5 unders. Cherney, Bairami, Haji, Dio and Suter all played at least some of their games. Even Haji got, I think, 20, 30 minutes. Worth calling out, I think, the performance of John Suter in that. He was pretty immense, actually, for both games. And then in the unders, we had Barron, King, Budanukas, Fraser for the Scotland under-21s. And I just want to pick up on one more very quickly. Cassim Virgil. So he played for the Holland under-21s and got himself 2 assists in the space of 15 minutes, Tomo. Do you think that helps him make a bit of a claim for that right-back jersey?
Yeah, most definitely. We've gone over it about Tavernier, and when Cassim Wirel's played for us, he's looked excellent. Away at Malmo at left back, and he's come on as a substitute a couple of times, looked very comfortable. And as I said earlier at the beginning of the podcast, it's all about having challenges for position, and I do think he's going to be pushing tab for that shirt if he continues the way he is. He's been here a few months now, got to know the players, the way we're playing. So I'd be expecting him to push Tav to get that right back spot. And again, competition can only be healthy, mate. So good luck to him.
Okay, excuse me. So looking ahead to the Killie game, then. As we said, great to have that football back, proper football, as we said. Couple of comments already on it, and I just kind of want to get your guys' take on this. So I'll start with you, Doug. The plastic pitch. So Ibrox Channel podcast asking, do you think there's any chance potentially Clermont changes up who he might start based on the pitch?
I don't think so. I mean, I've always kind of personally felt that there's a little bit too much made about plastic pitches. The club have plastic pitches as part of their training. Players use them all the time, and I don't quite think it's as big a thing as some people make it out to be. I mean, yes, by all means, you want to be wary on it. Playing a competitive game is not the same as necessarily training, because you're not quite going at it as hard as you might be. So yeah, there is that little bit of heightened risk, but we should be able to field players that are capable of playing on them at the end of the day. And I think we're in a better place than we have been perhaps in the past. We had certain players that we did kind of very much be wary about, players like Jack, but I think that was kind of more just to do with their overall injury issues rather than necessarily the pitch itself. So I think we should be able to. He should be able to play the team that he wishes and the team that he wants to. But it's another one of those things. I just wish it wasn't a conversation. We shouldn't have plastic pitches in top level football at the end of the day. To be blunt, but no, I personally, as I say, I don't think it's a major issue. I think you should be able to play whoever he wants to.
I think Gunnar agrees with you, mate. If I remember rightly, is there not a plan to phase them out over the next couple of years anyway?
Yeah, I think Kilmarnock's is going at the end of this season, isn't it? They're going back to grass from next season.
Which will be nice. It'll be nice. I do tend to agree, actually. Not a fan of competitive games on plastic pitches. I think, there's probably a bit of inbuilt bias anyway, but it was the Jamie Murphy injury on the Killie pitch that kind of did it for me. I was like, no danger. Scott, do you think it has an impact on the players? Do you think the team will approach the game in maybe a slightly different manner because it's plastic, or do you think they will prep and play as they would any other game?
I think they just have to prep and play the surface is irrelevant, to be perfectly honest with you. It's not a great surface. I think one of the comments about the different grades of plastic pitches, my local team at Stennismuir just relayed, and it's an absolutely top surface when you walk across it. But equally, I've been on other surfaces where it's a bit like Livingston and the pellets coming up. But
yeah.
I don't think it'll play any bearing on the way we should approach the game. I think what we will have to do is, we started very, very poorly the last time we went to Kilmarnock in February in the first half, and I think if we start and they're going to be smelling blood, and I think you heard Derek McInnes's comments in the last couple of days. They've been, apart from us and the other half of the Old Firm, they're unbeaten. Their record at home's very, very strong, and to be honest, it's always been really, really tight matches over recent years. So we have to just forget about the fact and approach the game, whether grass, plastic, playing in the car park, shouldn't matter. We have to approach the game the right way, and if we approach the game the right way, then we can win the game.
Yeah, and I think Paul kind of said similar as well in the comments there. If you've got the correct mentality, you go out and smash them, and that's purely on us, not the pitch or them. Tomo, last time out, Starman was very much Journey. So we've got an infographic here that Doug's kindly put together for the show. You can see the headline. So he got 2 goals, 0 assists, 4 shots. Is that two chances made, Doug? Sorry, I'm struggling with that a bit. And,
two shots.
Okay, and a rating of 9. So, Tomo, do you think that was a turning point for Czerny, or is that more we were playing St Johnstone?
No, I think I might be in the minority here. I don't know, but I didn't think Czerny was playing that overly bad in the games before. He's missed a good chance against Malmo, and then he's followed that up against Lyon, where he should have scored. And I think that sort of made his performances look worse than they actually were. He was getting into the games. He was trying to make things happen, but things weren't coming off. So hopefully, against his 2 goals against St Johnstone, which were excellent, especially his first one. Hopefully, that'll just give him the confidence now to kick on. He's certainly not. I don't think he's disgraced himself while he's been playing for us. maybe he could have done a little bit better, but I certainly don't think he's been as bad as what some people have made out. So hopefully, come Sunday, he got an assist as well during the international break in one of Czech's games. So hopefully he'll continue that on to Sunday and hopefully get another goal or a couple of assists.
Yeah, and Doug, just to pick up on what Tomo said there about him not playing so badly, he's obviously had quite a lot of stick from the fans. I think, just looking at this, so it's 4 goal contributions in 6 matches. Has obviously missed a couple of what you'd maybe class big chances. But for me, there's undeniable quality there. I think he is potentially a wee bit one-dimensional sometimes, but he's absolutely got quality. Do you think that the fans have maybe jumped on him a bit quick, and he should be given some more time, or is it perhaps just not going to work out with him in your view?
No, I agree with Tom. I don't think he's been playing as badly as a lot of people seem to think. In my opinion, it's a little bit of an example of the negative side of the eye test, and that the big thing that I always talk about with the eye test is the eye test is actually a memory test, and it's all about what you remember seeing that forms your view of a player. And when you have those slightly bigger opportunities or high profile misses, those are the things that the people remember, and therefore, if that's all they remember, then their view just becomes the player's not been playing well. And he'd had a few of them. Obviously, he had the big Leon miss that he had, and he had a few shots and things that weren't coming off. But I mean, his overall play was decent, and I think he's had a good start, like you say. The four goal contributions in 6 is a good league start, and if he continues to build on that, then I think he can become a good player. Don't get me wrong, he's not setting the heather light either. I think he's just kind of in the middle. He's doing fine. So we want to keep pushing him. We want to try and still get more out of him, but I certainly don't think he's been playing especially badly.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair. Scott, talking about the form then of the two teams going into this. So cover ourselves first. 4 wins, 1 pretty heavy loss, but that was Europa League. It was a decent performance from Lyon in the end, especially in an attacking sense. And we contrast that. So I think one of the guys said that Killie, had a pretty good record at home. They haven't lost many. There's an awful lot of draws in there. Do you see anything here that kind of makes you worried? Anything makes you think, we could be in for a tough test here?
I think we will be in for a tough test. Regardless of form, it's always one of these places. I think I go back to Gerrard's first season when Morelos scored a hat-trick down at Kilmarnock. I think that was like a League Cup tie. I very rarely do we go there and win comfortably. I hope that changes on Sunday. But I genuinely, I'm a bit like a broken record. It's about how we approach the game. It's about which version of Rangers turns up for the 12 o'clock kickoff. We can't wait until 1 o'clock to actually start playing. It's about, this is the start of 7 games between now and the next international break, 4 league games, 2 in the Europa League, 1 cup semi-final. I think it's vitally important that you build on the domestic momentum that we have built up over the last few weeks. So I respect Kilmarnock. I've got a lot of time for the job that Derek McInnes has done there. He's made them a decent side. They've got some good players. And I think it'll be interesting to see if David Watson starts, a player that I think is well thought of by a lot of us Rangers supporters. But again, it's about Rangers. It's about us approaching the game the right way and scoring the first goal as early as possible, and then letting our football do the talking and go on to win the 3 points.
Yeah, and that's going to be key, isn't it? So then, looking at the Rangers Journal 11. So for those that don't know, this is all the podcasters are in a group chat on WhatsApp, and for each game, the boss puts a survey in for each position. We'll pick who we think is going to start there. So, as always, I ain't going to dwell on the goalkeeper. I don't think there's much of a debate to be had there. Left back, Jeff Day. I think with Yilmaz out again, probably not much to discuss there. Proper and Suter. Doug, you've already said you're pretty much in favour of keeping that pairing together as much as we can. Scott, does that kind of fit with yourself? Are you the same when it comes to defence?
I think it's the best available back five at this moment. So I don't. There's no. You're going to Kilmarnock. You need your best lineup to get the result. And I think we've had a good run of clean sheets, and continuing that on Sunday. Do that on Sunday, we'll win the game.
Aye. Tavernier, I think personally I voted for him, if I remember rightly. I do think he'll start this one. I think even if you are going to give Casemiro minutes, it's probably not going to be a way to Killy for me. Doug, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you voted for Tav as well, mate.
Yeah, I did. Not through my any implicit bias or anything. Just that, he's obviously the first choice at the moment. Obviously, club captain. He's going to play unless something changes. He'll continue to play. I do. I said after the Lyon game that I didn't think that would be any kind of like watershed moment that a lot of folk wanted, but that I did think it will be something that we'll see more frequently. Partly because, as I say, everyone, including the manager, has been saying from the start of the season that Tav can't play the 50, 60 games anymore. So he'll need more minutes off the park. But also because we've got these players pushing at the door. And, there may come a point in the season where we do see all of a sudden one of the other ones start if Tav does continue on it. He's been fine with, again, he's also kind of not excelling, not being horrific. He's kind of just in the middle. And if one of the young guys like Casemiro is really pushing the boat out, then he may well start trying them in some matches. So it could be something we see. But for now, I think he'll continue with the sort of the tried and tested, as it were.
Yeah. Just for those in the comments as well, this was, I think, 2 days ago. This survey went out. So we weren't aware at that point Lawrence was missing. Just on that then, guys. So obviously the team voted. We had Dio and Barron as the two centre mids. Cammy, I'll come to you first. Would you shift Dio forward, or would you keep Dio and Barron in the middle, move Bayrami in and do something funky on the left?
This again, it comes back to other conversations I've had about being flexible in certain situations. The fixation with a number 10. I'd like to play. You could play Raskin as a 6, and you could play Barron and Diomande as the 2 8s, and almost a bit more of a tighter 3, but with Barron and Diomande given more sort of license, but they can also avoid gaps filling, like us getting cut open on transition and that sort of situation. But that's the I wasn't aware that I had missed the comment at the press conference that Lawrence was injured. I must admit I hadn't heard that one. So that changes things if he's certainly unavailable. But I think just a wee bit of flexibility. Sometimes I think we go to Kilmarnock, we go to Aberdeen in a couple of weeks' time. You sometimes just have to adapt to the opposition and the challenges that you're going to face. But I think Philip Clement is quite strong-willed in the way that he wants to approach pretty much every game. So I think with the 4-2-3-1 as normal.
Yeah, I'm just going to dampen your parade there. I was watching back some of the ones that Scotty did, the Philippe Clement Uncovered series that he's done. So that, for the folk listening, that was Genk, Bruges, and Monaco. And what we did was we tracked down a fans podcast for each one, asked for some insight on Clermont. I think the overwhelming feeling from that is the stubbornness ain't a new thing. He was pretty stubborn. They did say that at one point he did play the 4-3-3. I think it might have been at Bruges. He played it for a bit, but no, the general consensus was that he's pretty wedded to that formation and not for changing, to be fair. Doug, same question to yourself then, mate. Obviously, with Lawrence out, do you shift Dio forward a line into that 10 position? Let's just assume for the purposes of this question that he is going to continue to be stubborn and he is going to play a 10. Would you shift Dio forward, or do you move Bayrami in, Yefte forward, and put Fraser in at left back? What would your kind of option be?
If it were up to me, I'd play Bayrami in the centre and play Egerman out on the left, and give him the minutes. I'd like to see him getting more time. He can play as a winger, so I think it's something that I'd like to see. I think it could be. I think him and Bayrami and Tierney could be really interesting together, potentially, in terms of quite fluid movement, taking up spaces. The one criticism I had of Eggman in his game against Hibs was I thought he drifted a little bit too much for the way that everyone else was playing. It reminded me a bit of Morelos when he would drift about, and it left us with no one in the middle. Yeah. But I feel like if you're playing him as one of the wingers, then his role is slightly different. He's going to be moving around with the ball, but then you still have Dessers as dead centre. You can just tell Dessers, just blank yourself in the middle, let the guys behind you do the most of the movement. And primarily, I'd like to do that as well because in game it could allow you to also go 4-4-2. If you wanted to do that, which is something the team does do off the ball anyway, but I think it could be something they could do on the ball. Have Eggman push up and the two Bayrami pull back out again and do a 4-4-2. And I'd go with those routes rather than the kind of, I think the common option people think about is push Dio up and put in Raskin, which I think is a perfectly good solution. But I want to go out and smash Kilmarnock, so I'm picking the attacking players predominantly rather than because essentially what we're talking about is taking out Lawrence and putting in Raskin. To me, that's you've taken out an attacking player and put in a defensive player. So I want to take out an attacking player and put in another attacking player. So that would be what I would probably personally go for myself.
Yeah, I have to admit, the kind of one time that Dio did get a proper chance in that 10 position, I wasn't fully convinced. And again, you're not going to write someone off after, not even a full game in that position. But I think he definitely needed to show a bit more for me to say that was worth pursuing, given we kind of know what he offers in the middle anyway. I think personally, actually, I think it's a really interesting option, potentially putting Eggman out on the left. I was the same as you, mate. I kind of picked up that drifting wing to wing or, dropping back to get himself involved and leaving us blank. So that could be a solution to that. So I guess just on the team then, so we're pretty happy Barron's going to start in the middle. Cammy, I think you're basically saying you want they two Raskin behind. Doug, you'd keep the same formation, but just shift Bayrami in the middle and put Eggman on the left. I take it there's no debate that Dessers is going to start.
I don't think there's. Listen, we can have analyze Cyril Dessers, but he is what he is, and he's our fit. He's our fit and firing striker. He's 7-8 goals so far this season. Should probably be more. Danilo working his way back. Eggman, I do like Doug's suggestion. I don't expect Eggman to start off the left-hand side, but I do think it is certainly something we should be looking at as an option. we need to have more goal threat on the in the team. You know, and that's where if Lawrence was there, Lawrence is a goal threat, Dessers is a goal threat, Igaman is direct sort of thing. Czerny's just off the back of 2 goals. That's what a successful Rangers team. That's what we need for a successful Rangers team, is the front 4 players all contributing and all being. It's not just over reliance on 1 or 2 individuals.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And I think that's been a thing again for quite a long time, hasn't it? You know, that isn't a recent thing. Even the Gerrard days, pretty much, bar that 55 season, it was always Morelos and Tav that you would look to. So, yeah, I think we do need a solution for that. You're spot on. Okay, time to put you on the spot. I'll come to you first, Doug. What's your score prediction for this one?
I'm feeling in a good mood, so I'm going to say 3-0 to Rangers. Dessers will get back in this on the score sheet. I think Kelly conceded the most penalties, I believe, this season. So we'll get a penalty, so that'll be a goal for Tav. And then I'm going to throw in. Yeah. And then I'm going to throw in a goal for Barami. I'd like to see him get off the mark in the league. Okay,
and Cammy, what about yourself, mate?
It's one of these ones that 3 points is that is the main goal. A performance would be great, but as I've said earlier, it's traditionally we always have a really tight game. I think we'll win 1-0. I think it'll be a goal probably the last 15-20 minutes. So I don't think it's going to be an easy or stress-free watch, but I think the 3 points, and I think this is the start of a very tricky spell of fixtures. So I think it's vitally important that we win the game and just keep the momentum building. So 1-0, and I'll go for Czerny to score again.
Yeah, I normally don't like picking the same, but I've got a horrible feeling this is going to be very much like you've described, Cammy. So I will also go 1-0. I think a Bayrami long ranger potentially will be the difference here. But I certainly don't think it's going to be a drubbing by any means. Hopefully I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong. Hopefully Doug's right and we get some nice free-flowing football and a 3-0 scoreline. But there we are. So, folks, that's just about it for tonight. If you have liked what you heard, please do like the video and also like and subscribe to the Rangers Journal YouTube channel. Just a reminder, we are sponsored by Premier VPN. Offer you all your VPN solutions, and you can find them online, searching Premier VPN or on Twitter. Thanks for listening, and remember, every night's a Rangers Journal night.